สวัสดีครับคุณอูโดครับ Nice to have you here in Thailand.
Thank you.
สวัสดีท่านผู้ชมนะครับวันนี้นะครับผมอยู่กับอดีต CEO ของ AR นะครับผู้ที่ปฏิวัติโลกดนตรีอะคูสติกนะครับและตอนนี้นะครับคุณอูโดนะครับก็ออกมาทำแอมของตัวเองนะครับในนามว่า Udo Rosener. For the first question, please tell me about your music background.
First of all, I'm very happy to be back in Thailand. So thanks all Thai fans of acoustic music and music in general. We've all had a very hard time with COVID and so many strange things. So I hope it has brought you closer to music, more intensely to music, because that's something we all should enjoy in life. So I'm happy to be back here with very nice people and again with GuitarThai and Tira Music. It's coming back to good old friends. So if you ask me about my musical background, well, I'm not 18 anymore. I may be fortunate or maybe unfortunate, I don't know. So it is quite a long story. I would like to point out a very few characteristic points. Number one was my beloved mother, who was strict enough with me in the first 3 years of being educated playing guitar, as I wanted to learn the guitar. But when you are young, you don't have the precision and the continuity to keep it on. Too many different interests. And my mother was pretty strong, so she made a point, and this helped me to stay with guitar for the first 3 hard years, and then suddenly it made click, and guitar has never ever left me all my life. So there was a couple of charismatic persons, definitely musically, starting with Andres Segovia and classical music for sure. But then I was very, very influenced by the American style of playing guitar, which we called fingerpicking. And this was brought in through English TV channels into Germany, and I started to moving bass, started to get into the fingerstyle stuff and into, today it is called fingerstyle, but we would say it was folk picking, and there was quite a lot of wonderful musicians in the US, Stephen Grossman as an example, John Renbourn with Pentangle, and tremendous stuff where it was a crossover of folky, jazzy, and classical elements in it that formed a serious music which was not only enjoyable to play, but it was also something completely new to your ears. So it was a fantastic phenomenon. I played a little bit myself on an amateur, semi-amateur level and enjoyed it, and wanted to get into music, but this never actually turned out. So at the end of a day, with a lot of deviation, I got into the music because I started in the music shop and went on until actually AR was founded, and we run this with a team of good friends for many, many years, and now I'm here with my own little project with partners in France, and we are pretty hard working on moving all the ideas that I had concerning tone and quality to the next level. That's what we did. I would recommend everybody to listen to music as widespread as you can and as intensely as you can. Even though you may not like it in the beginning, you may start to like it soon afterwards, and it may not ever leave you again. So don't limit yourselves to what you can experience by music all around our world.
For the next, as we know, you were CEO from the AR amplifier, and then you go out from AR, and now you just launched out your amp. Mm-hmm. Yes, Udo Rosener Amp. Could you tell me about your philosophy and the concept for the Udo Rosener Amp?
Mm-hmm. Actually, the basic driving force was to continue with what I believed in and to try to drive it further, to drive it to a better result. Mm-hmm. And knowing what I've done before and what the concepts behind that was, I had a few ideas how I could change pretty much the unique concept of, let's say, the Compact 60 as it was. Small, powerful, portable. I mean, come on, beat that. Incredible. And it is so sufficient for so many instruments and stuff. So to get beyond that, to break this and get a little better, or significantly better. That was the target at the beginning. And as I have been very much involved in the products before under AER, pretty much knew and have had ideas where I could tweak and put differences in. And let's say a general approach to describe this, and excuse my personal view here, but I do think that the guitars in the 90s, in generally, when we started with the guitars in the 90s were better sounding than the guitars are today. Maybe today guitars are looking nice or nicer, but sound-wise, at least me, I'm a little disappointed about that. It's hard to find a good sounding guitar. So the approach was completely different. In the 90s, you had full, big, round, warm tone, and you needed this to be projected. So the sound characteristics is way more transparent, way more open, way more clean, way more, you could also say sterile, with a lot of focus on overtones and high. But when guitars are losing their body, and then you have this brittle thing which many of them nowadays have, and then it starts to be counterproductive. So we need something which has more warmth, which is able to fill the tone, so add it up. And that was basically the idea that I tried to achieve with it. And I think we've done pretty well. A lot of people tell us that we've done it.
Okay, it's really quite different from AER.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the big problem of acoustic guitar amp for the musician in the present day?
Well, everybody has its own problems. I have my own problems too. But let me put it like this. COVID was a very good period for me because I could go back playing guitar even more or again, and I could think about many things again in the same way, and or in a new way or in a different way. And certain things became clear or clearer for me, turning it into more purity, into more basic things that really are so decisive for the total result. Let's say so many people spend hours and hours and hours in equipment and technology, but they forget about that everything starts from here, and everything starts from your music experience, from what and how you can express. So in many cases I would advise the acoustic players of today rather to focus on the basic things, on the tone, than on effect and sensation and whatever, the big thing. So that's one thing. But you have to have a couple of decisions to take before. Number one, to my understanding, how important is the instrument for you at all? Because you could easily say the instrument is nothing more than provider of a signal, and whatever happens with the signal I do in the digital room anyhow. So your approach should be get digital as quickly as possible, and you can do everything in the digital world. I'm old school and I stay in the analog world for good reasons, I think, because I hear sound differences which I enjoy, so I will stay analog. But even then there is another decision to take, the decision of if you are a gigging musician, how do you want to arrange your setup? Because you can either go the way and say my instrument and I will have a good DI box and then I'm done, because most of it is sound reinforcement system and technicians and everything you are taking care of. The other direction is you may want to be master of your own universe, and then the approach to an acoustic amp is, so to speak, mandatory. And me personally, I like to have things close to me, under control, and so that I can help other people in providing the results that I would like to have. So my philosophy is the amp. So basically make your decision which way you follow and concentrate rather on yourselves and the music than on technical gimmicks.
Let's go back to your amp. There are a lot of acoustic guitar amp always had the problem about dynamic, harmonic, tone, frequencies. It's not clear. How did you resolve the problem with Udo amp?
I can again get back to Corona and the changes that were there with thinking deeper in the different spheres and elements that are necessary and connected to make something like an amplifier. It needs a very, very broad experience and not necessarily theoretically only. You need practical experience very much to assume how the unit will sound in a certain environment, in a room, how lively the tone is when you listen to it. That's all things that you cannot design on a scratch board and get into a circuit. You have to have a lot of experience for that, and that's experience by just doing it. That's one thing. Number two, I definitely have a very, very clear understanding of what I like tone-wise. I don't necessarily know how to achieve it, because that needs technical support sometime, but I definitely know what I like and what I dislike. So the amps that I make, the Da Capo, is sounding to what I think an acoustic instrument should sound when it is reproducing the full range of the registers. Bearing in mind that for sure with a bigger cabinet, with more power, with a different speaker system, all of that, you would end up you could get to a different result. Not necessarily better or worse, because number one, this is your personal decision. There is ways to define if tone is good or better or not, but you would not guess where this is searched for, where it's coming from. Biology, for example. When people study birds and they record birds, it's sometimes really difficult to get a bird singing to a microphone. So you need technology that's really good. And then you see, whoops, there's recordings where you can hear something quite differently than from other recordings. Yep, that's the technical equipment besides it. For the matters of clarity or dynamics, that's a matter that you can decide by yourselves, because depending on what you provide in power, you can provide a certain dynamic range, you can provide a certain end SPL and end volume. The same with the filters, you can decide that by taste. And most people, I think, unfortunately, are a little scared about real dynamics. That's my feeling.
Okay, I'm free. Why you choose 8-inch speaker? Why don't you choose 10 or 12? How 8 is suit for your amp?
I can exactly follow what I finished for the last question.
Okay.
When you look into the tonal range that an acoustic guitar reproduces, then you will find out that an 8-inch from its natural reproduction is almost perfect, because it doesn't emphasize things too much. It takes a couple of, and you have not mentioned that this is a dual cone system. It's not a twin cone. It's not a biamping system with a crossover. It's a dual tone. So with the little tricks like the additional cone, you accelerate the treble ranges a little bit, so it gives you a full range without crossover point. But let's say I think the resonance frequency of the speaker is in the range of about 70 hertz. That would mean below it gets fragile, it gets unstable. But when we look at guitar, for example, we would say, well, 80 hertz is the E string, the low E string, 82 if we haven't detuned it. So if the speaker is already critical at 70 hertz, how can this work? Well, if you look at it in more detail, you would see that the cavity of the instruments limits the reproduction of the lower frequency quite significantly. So the actual first climax is the first boost, the first peak of full SPL, you have rather in the range of 160 and above. So the speaker is safe in these registers, and we have electronic control, so if the level is too high dynamically, then this is controlled as well, and this is on the safe side. That's towards the speaker. Another aspect is also quite interesting. I think an 8-inch is really fast, so impulse reproduction is very fast, and that's important for an acoustic signal as well. And last reason for sure, I like things to be small. So an 8-inch is quite a lot smaller than a 10-inch, and it's easier to get it in a housing like this and stuff.
Okay, everyone, let's try.
Let's try.
Let's
yeah.
try.
Well, thank you, and let me know.
For the next, sometime when the guitar player use the acoustic guitar that is not good sound from the guitar. In the quality, I want to say that maybe the cheaper guitar and they put the cable into the amplifier. Some amp can use those guitar to be better sounds. There is a lot of color tone or change something from the original sound from guitar to be better. For the Udo amp, do you think about this, or do you want the Udo amp to have the real sound from guitar, not change everything with really fast?
Well, again, this is an interesting question and pretty complex, because when we start with simple guitars or cheap guitars, we tend to forget that this is the only access that a lot of people have towards music, because they just can't afford really expensive equipment. That's a pity on the one side, but on the other side, this is nothing to be frustrated from, because back to very beginning, the better you play, the better an instrument sounds, even if it is a simple instrument, a cheap instrument. So there is no necessarily need to think that by buying additional equipment or having something external like an amp interfering in your tone that you would improve. No, I don't think so. I think you should clearly realize what you have and try to find ways around it to get better. Use different strings, use a different technology, use a different pickup system. See what volumes you play in. Most of the people play too fast and too loud. See if the pitch of the instrument is the right one. Maybe you just reduce the pitch by half a tone or a tone, and you will find the instrument is way warmer and plays easier. Make sure that the setup is perfect, even on a cheap guitar. Make the setup perfect. When you are classically playing, take care for your nails, take care for your skin, for everything which is helpful for the tone. Due to my strong belief in that these measures are way more fruitful and fulfilling as having an additional effector, the amplifier does not color to the degree that his sound design is, it is not neutral, no, it is not like flat, no, the da capo shapes the tone in a way that I think the acoustic instruments should sound, but it reflects all the sound that is coming in, and it is reproducing it in the same way. So many amps consider something completely different, because they are not made for, let's say, a live situation. First of all, they are more addressing the hi-fi sofa feel that you have when you play at home, or when you play at a lower volume, when you don't have to compete to other musicians. So their characters of ranges is different. They have more focus on a bass, on a lower bass, but most of the time very compressed or very quickly in compression, because small amps, big signals, you have to compress to succeed. So this is all rather counterproductive to your listening, to my understanding. And another thing that I would recommend you is train your listening, train your hearing, because there's so many things that are annoying us without noticing it, like earphones, in our ears. All these, so many digital signals that we are confronted with, they all disturb our hearing, and they make us accept mediocre quality way more easy. So we have by intellect and by desire and by will drive us to the position that we say we want a good tone, so I'm working on it to improve my tone.
Which style or spec of acoustic guitar does suit for Udo amp?
All styles. That's simple.
Okay.
All styles.
Okay, all styles. Why we can't use electric guitar for the acoustic guitar amp?
Oh, we can. That's technically is not a problem. It is not a perfect match, but it works. And when you think about Telecaster twangy tones, they work very well with an acoustic amp. Fine, that's not the issue. But with an acoustic amp, it's quite different. The acoustic amp stands behind the musician and the instrument, while an electric sound is impossible without the amp. You will never sound like Brian May if you're not using a box. So the amp has a completely different function. And that's due to the magnetic pickups and the input stages, the tubes and all these kind of things, the harmonic distortion that the tubes generate, that even in a clear tone you have them as substantial parts of the signal. All of this is completely different to the approach that we have in an acoustic amp.
There are a lot of acoustic simulated stump box in this room. Can we use this instead of acoustic guitar amp?
You can use everything that you want.
Okay.
If you followed my line of thought in this wonderful interview, then you will start to understand that I'm way more on the side of big analog signals outside of the digital world, and most of these processors are very, very digital. The basic understanding difference between these two worlds is that in the one world we are living in sound pressure level, and the other world we live in dB full scale.
Okay.
That's something else. That is completely else. And if you think about, there is a sound difference to it. So work it out. If it doesn't matter for you, fine. If you appreciate the facilities and the features, fine. If that's your sound, fine. There's nothing against it.
Okay. Same as the previous question about DI. So many acoustic guitar players always use DI, put the cable into the mixer without using the amplifier. How about in your opinion?
It works very well, for sure. That's not an issue. But the point is, to my experience and my sounding and feeling, a mixing desk is a part of a Pro Audio setup. And the Pro Audio is designed to reproduce orchestra ranges completely. And it is designed to have 42 signals, 42 channels with all periphery and everything in 100% box, because more than 100% you cannot provide. So it does not say that if you have 42 channels, each channel has only 100 divided by 42. That's not what I'm going to say. But the dynamic capability of a mixing desk is completely different than the dynamic capability of a specialized guitar preamp acoustic amplifier.
Okay.
And you can even feel and get this from the line out signals and the DI out signals. So the DI and line out side provided to a mixing desk give you a better sound as if you would go with the direct out.
Why you make the solid state amp? Why don't you make a two amp? And between solid state and two amp, which one is good for acoustic guitar sound?
That reminds me to the very early stages that we developed, and I haven't verified it yet, as I did many things lately, but as much as I recall, and that's experience that I have over the years, there is no advantage of tube technology for acoustic signals. There's rather, you can look at it in a special way and say, I want to do it, and here is my product, and it will definitely sound good. I have no doubts. But there's no real need for it, like you have a tube need for an electric guitar. That's what I'd say. Then there is a couple of downsides that you have to pay attention to. Tubes are precious as an element. You have to have high voltage. You have to have bigger transformers as such. This is all pretty costly and a lot of weight and effort. So we are in a high-end range for sure, but we still have it small, portable, compact, and durable, and all of these kind of benefits that make it very plausible to use solid state.
Have we some chance to see the two acoustic amp from you?
No, I don't think so. I think I don't think so.
I go to your website and I see a lot of the things that you develop in your lab. Could you talk more about Udo Jazz Amp, how about the concept?
Yeah, it is the attempt of providing traditional sound and modern sounds in one box. That's what we try to achieve, because if you want to play like George Benson, you want to sound like George Benson. So what? And there's so many others there with fantastic identity through the tone that they generate and perform, and they need their surroundings about this besides their playing ability. Then it should also be portable and small for sure, and we were working on a different sound processing, analog sound processing concept in that. Unfortunately, this has come to a little hold due to Corona and a lot of things that happened, but we still have it boiling. So I would be pretty optimistic that we could get this into your hands, into reality in the next year, as especially the time during Corona was so fruitful in developing new stuff, considering new concepts, really working again on a scientific level to understand in more depth what is decisive for a good amp. So we have more advanced tools available now than we had 3 years ago when we started with the jazz amp. So I'm pretty optimistic about it and excited because it's very challenging.
So I'm really excited about this.
Yes, sure.
It's really quite different from other brand jazz amp. Yeah. Okay. Maybe next year.
Yes, that's what we hope. Yeah.
Okay. As we know, there are a lot of jazz guitar players always use acoustic amp guitar, right? And then you have the couple 25. How it different from how is the couple 75 is different from the couple jazz amp?
It will be different because definitely the complete preamp section will be different, completely different. We have to focus more on magnetic pickups. That's one thing. The speaker will be definitely different. It will be bigger. It has to be bigger because we have to have a different reproduction of lower frequencies. And I do think that we will have to provide more power. That's the three basic things that need to be considered.
And don't change the tone of guitar?
No, we don't want to. We don't want to. Why? Nobody wants the 175 sound like a Stratocaster. No, we don't want that.
So I asked about this because there is a lot of jazz and guitar. There is a 5 EQ, there's something, maybe the compressed tone.
Well, this is, let's say, a habit or an attitude that we have in the industry because definitely the industry lives on product. The industry lives on many people on a kind of amateur education level. And we kind of hope, everybody hopes that with an additional tool he can win the world. And unfortunately this is hardly possible. So many makers provide very general things that can pretty much do everything. Okay, and then you can say you can get into it with everything and you can do everything and then you get out to wherever. Maybe it makes sense. To me, these things are mostly way too complicated, too many knobs, too many things, buttons, push, blah. And I always have a hard time considering, seeing from the outside how advanced the real filter technology is. And so, because that's effort, to really provide good sounding filters and good functioning filters, precise. And most people turn the knobs, but what you do with turning the knob is something completely different than you see. So I'm not necessarily a fan of that, as I told you. I would put more access in my playing skills.
Okay, I will wait.
Yes, okay. Good.
Okay, for the next, it's about your pickup. So you have the Has pickup. How come the idea and the concept for making Has pickup?
Actually, I made pickups before I made amps. So it's very old. But it has never ever really developed into some serious product into the market because a couple of reasons for that. And one is the pickups are a little bit more demanding, so you have to understand a little bit more about it. They are, like the Hash, for example, for many users frighteningly dynamic, very big punch, so they're rather scared than I think. And for sure, pickups is something they're very hard to make. They afford a hell of a lot of attention to detail. And as the industry is these days, you can buy them on Alibaba for 10 euros, a complete set including tuner. So what are you going to say? And as nobody really cares about the differences, the detailed differences there, it's very hard to communicate. So I have a few real fans of these systems, which is great. Emil Ernebrø, for example, a Swedish guitar player, fantastic teacher and player, performer, and a lot of others. That's fine. And Corona again gave me an opportunity to reconsider all of these things. And I have redesigned the dot and the hash system, the two. There is a side-mounted one, the bracket, in preparation, all with new technical approach, new preamps. But lately I do something completely different concerning pickups, and that's a cooperation project with a German classical guitar maker called Armin Hanecker. And we have come together with the idea of creating a full package of a classical crossover guitar with a perfectly matching pickup system and a perfectly matching amp. And the amp is the Da Capo. The pickup system is a complete new design that I've made for that, and Armin's guitar. So this will be introduced into the European markets at the end of this year. So I think that internationally it will get a little louder in the next year. And this is quasi the result of approaching nylon players, because classical players. Classical is scary for most people, but it's about a nylon string guitar, and I can honestly say it is just fun to play. Have a go, especially when they are a little bit modified, so that maybe some things are a little more easy, like the neck a little bit different, or stuff like that. The sound is gorgeous. I like it way better than steel string by now, I have to say, and I do also think that even entry-level nylon strings guitar are better sounding than steel string guitar. So it is just a matter to how make this a little bit interesting, this concept, and that's what we are preparing. And for the approach towards the nylon player, I have stripped everything out of the guitar. So the guitar pickup system is a passive pickup system, and we have all the controls, all the special things needed outside of the instrument. So no rattling, no battery fall off, no controls fall off, all of these things that literally everybody knows.
You change the sound, you change the concept, the new one of the concept again. I will wait. And I would like your feedback as well, because there is some, for me, things are exciting when I can hear a difference. And sometimes, and most of the cases, measurement doesn't show a difference. You can measure as much as you want, but it doesn't really show the difference. And suddenly you hear something and say, wait, what is that? You do not need to be able to explain it, because it can be many reasons. It's a complex scenario, right? You change maybe 2-3 things, whatever, and poof, suddenly you say, wow, what is this? Tiny little difference, but big effect. And so I consider the pickups now, when we are preparing for a bigger introduction into the market, even for the hash and the dot, which are beautiful systems as such, and for the new systems as well. For the next, I'm so excited about this. I hear something about you are making acoustic guitar, right?
One.
Okay. How come the idea and concept of making NC guitar?
Well, that's purely in recognition of a very, very dear friend of mine who unfortunately passed away many years already, with Mr. Steve White. And some people may remember Steve here even in Thailand, because he played here, we did workshops. And Steve was a musician, a unique musician, just a simple busker, you would say, with foot percussion, with claws around his ankle, with guitar, harmonica, singing beautiful songs, rhythmically unbelievably strong. It was like a band, and it was wonderful. And as a harmonica player, he was annoyed about having to adjust the harmonicas and the playing all the time, due to you have to transpose and stuff like. So he came up with this idea and just detuned the guitar. Poof. So it ended up quasi being a baritone. So he was playing the same key when he was playing harmonica. And we were traveling together, and this idea of, let's say, having, like I personally like OM-shaped guitars very much. And I think it's a perfect reproduction of all the beauty of the instrument. So we just, in a plane, we came to the idea and say we're going to try and make a regular sized baritone in an OM shape with the regular guitar scale, not a long scale. It is a short scale, 66 scale. We had a befriended guitar maker in Germany, Tom Launhardt, who unfortunately is dead by now as well. It's a pity. So many good people go. And he made prototypes, and it was stuck there. So for me, this never ever left my head, because I think it's a beautiful guitar. Number one, as you as a regular guitar player used to the normal scale, you can play it extremely easily, and it gives you a complete different sound when you play guitar. So many people play guitars and the ranges and the sound, the music stays the same, because we don't have a tenor sax and a regular sax, whatever. So this would give you a second voice in a concert, and it would force you to play differently, because you have to play slower. The tone needs more time to develop. It can be very spacey, very roomy, so I love it very much. So we are still in preparation for this. Okay. And I'm also pretty positive that we will be able to tell more about it, and maybe have already the finished product at the NAMM show in January in the US. Okay. So it is rocking, believe you me. Okay. And the new pickup system for this, which I use for the classical guitar, works tremendously well in the baritone as well. So I'm very, very excited about it.
From all of your product, which product is next will have the opportunity to grow up?
Well, it will go in two directions, because with the Da Capo, we have a wonderful compromise for many things, but at a pretty advanced price level, so hard to afford for many people as well. And so we are considering something which gives a comparable pleasure and decent sound to a wider a group of users. So you could close it a little bit, maybe going into the amateur or into the home part of it. That's one thing. But on the other hand, there is one thing that I still want to achieve. I want to be really at the end of my finishing line of my audio expectations. So I'm working on something that, to my understanding, has a more advanced tone. So it will be more into the direction of kind of a studio monitor in application with, let's say, classical instruments and stuff. So that's something that is definitely coming. But I think other than that, we have covered it. It is a little hard for the industry if there's only one product. If it's just a solitaire, people tend to be a little skeptical, you know, what's happening, and they are more happy when you have 100 watts, 70 watts, 50 watts, 30 watts, 20 watts. But they cannot do the same thing. They cannot, you know, all of them are different. So we are carefully stepping forward to extend the family a little bit.
In your opinion, how do you look at the opportunity in the music market about acoustic guitar amp?
For the future?
Yeah, for the future and now and the future.
That's a tough one, because the digital world is so how can I say, so growing, so unbelievable. You find so many, you think simple tools that you could put blah, and it's quite confusing. I think we still have a lot to do to communicate the value of an amplifier in the use for a musician on stage, and even you know, for other purposes. We still have to do a lot, and we find this hard, for example, in the industry, that with all the many products that everybody in the industry has to take care for, it's very difficult to focus on something. And this is maybe an unpleasant information. Like, I try to convey a lot of unpleasant information. Don't buy something play harder, train harder, right? That's unpleasant because it turns the ball back to you and not just I buy something and then I'm better. So I think, yes, we have to do quite a lot to make this understand for the players and the singers as they, by using it, they will clearly learn more about the difference in tone and their experience will spread.
In this world, there is a lot of target for the music product or music market in this world. Which target that is will suit for your product, like a high-end guitar player or a beginner or the professional or home users?
Well, I would definitely say it's professional, and I wouldn't say you have to be high-end or beginner. It's a matter of your approach. If you really take it serious as a beginner, you need good equipment, and you are the best off with the best equipment that you can get. That's something. It's not a home application, but we cannot limit. If somebody wants to buy it and play it at home, he can. It will work. It will sound very nice, but it's actually made for the live purpose, for the professional application.
What's next for the Udo product?
Next. Well, we still have a long waiting list. Let's recall the jazz amp is still waiting, the Encinitas guitar is still waiting, then I need to get my pickup systems finished and on the road, and we have this new classical concept which you will enjoy very soon. So there's quite a lot of waiting list at the moment, and this is one thing. The other thing is you have to get it into the market, you have to get it out there. This takes also quite a while, and I think this will be, let's say, the basic target that I have is to be able to supply high-end sound devices from the guitar to the loudspeaker. So everything in between. I was even considering cable because that makes a difference as well. So that you can be sure the whole elements all are interconnected. So you contribute, there's a win-win situation by connecting the different items and no risk of kind of confusion or contradiction or something. That's the plan. So to fulfill the complete sound chain on different levels, let's say, and there's a possibility to even get it one step above, higher, better sounding, and hopefully in the future we will be able to provide something for just the music lover at home.
You will change the world again. Okay. Yeah. For the next, in the present day, there are a lot of the music equipment from China. As we know, the China has a lot of the modern thing or modern technology or something. They made at the same level as USA or Europe. Do you concerned about this?
No, I'm not so concerned about that. I'm rather concerned about political leaders that we have in the world, because their greed and power plays and egos wreck and ruin everything. That's really what concerns me in this respect. I've been to China many times, and I have Chinese friends which I like very much, and I found really truthful and dear people there with a serious concept. And you find a lot of crazy people there which do whatever is possible, and they do it faster and quicker and cheaper. So yes, let's say this is kind of a challenge, but it is a question of the attitude as well. Everybody can do everything cheaper. I mean, yes, for sure. That's very simple, very simple. We do everything cheap enough to ruin this planet. We would have to charge a lot more money to preserve this planet, but we are not doing this. So no, I'm not scared. I'm fascinated by their working attitude. It's unbelievable. I'm fascinated by the speed in which they have learned and adopted to certain things, but it's not scary in a sense that I would say they take over. Let me give you a very simple final example, maybe. Where we come from forms and describes our being very much. When you get this view on, for example, language, Then you will find differences in languages. There is languages which are tonal, like Chinese, like Thai, and there is languages like they are not tonal, more or less like the European language. And the language is the different use of language. Your mother language forms your perception, your hearing, and whatever, your audio-visual sense system in a completely different way. So a simple way to look at it, you could say tonal languages, mostly in Asia, you would find people are much, much stronger in a melodic understanding of context, while the Western part of the world, our languages, we are much stronger rhythmically. So you see, bottom line is we can learn so much from each other. So let's go ahead with that. And I'm very positive that humans amongst themselves, they are willing to do that. Unfortunately, we are entitled in a money-driven capitalistic world that is causing a hell of a lot of problems for all of us. So we will not be able to change this massively, but music can help us to at least keep the smile and respect and honor our neighbor. So I'm very positive even in my cooperation with all my Chinese friends that we have. There's a lot of people there seriously looking for good music and good products.
Okay. For the last one, why Udo Rosener Amp?
Why? Well, that's a long story or a short story. Actually, I'm pretty shy with my own name, I have to say. So that took me a while to be confident enough to say it's Udo Rosener now. I've done AER for many, many years, founded it with a nice bunch of friends, and we run it for quite a lot of years together very positively, and I think we've moved the world quite a bit. But with many companies or some companies, there is a failure rate after certain years. So when we got older than 20 years as a company, it kind of fell apart. And in quite a, let's say, quite a special way. So I luckily had the chance to have friends that we decided to give it a combined new start, and my friends in France that are behind and supporting this whole measure. And we decided to use my own name, my reputation that I have, and the many friends that I have around the world, and put it into a product line which continues actually what I was believing in at AR and what I was standing for over the many years that I was running it. Top quality, fantastic sound, and a very, very musical environment.
Okay. Thank you so much, Udo.
My pleasure. Everybody in Thailand, enjoy music. Keep your smile. Life is tough, but it's the only that we have.
นี่นะครับคือบทสัมภาษณ์ของคุณอูโดโรสเนอร์นะครับแล้วถ้าเกิดใครอยากจะลองแอมดีๆนะครับก็ต้องมาลองได้เลยครับที่ทีระมิวสิกนะครับก็สุดท้ายนี้นะครับกีตาร์ไทยเนี่ยต้องขอบคุณทีระมิวสิกนะครับที่ให้โอกาสดีๆนะครับในการสัมภาษณ์คุณอูโดโรสเนอร์นะครับถ้ายังไงเนี่ยรอชมว่าเทปหน้าผมจะไปสัมภาษณ์ศิลปินหรือลูเทียร์หรือว่า CEO หรือใครท่านไหนที่มีความเกี่ยวข้องกับดนตรีในโลกนี้นะครับรอติดตามชมกันนะครับเทปนี้ผมกับคุณอูโดลาไปก่อนนะครับสวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ